Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the TNG podcast. My name is Colin.
And I am Amanda. And we just had a session on the culture of prayer. Oh my goodness, was it good?
It was so good. So we had our friend AG, who's here at staff with us, came and taught on a culture of prayer. And she crushed it. And I think when he introduced her, like really set her up well. Because it's true.
So
like when I think of AG, I do think of prayer.
Yeah.
Like I think he's hit the two things, prayer and passion. And you're like, that's who she is. And the way she brought the message tonight and the way she brings like that passion into the place of prayer. I think when you talk about cultures, you need authority.
Yes.
And she has the authority.
Yeah.
You know, some people can be like, oh, I'm passionate about that. That's great. You're passionate about that, but you shouldn't be the one to talk on it. Yeah. AG is definitely the person who should be talking on prayer.
And I've been working with her for the past year, well, probably over a year now. And honestly, when I say she has the authority to be talking on prayer, like she has the authority to be talking on prayer. It's something that she honestly has been cultivating so intentionally for the past like over a year and a half. And so it's honestly, it was a privilege getting to hear even just her process and all the revelation, the insight the Lord had given her over this last like couple of years or year of intentionally pursuing what that even looks like.
Yeah. And it was good. And so, I mean, even just tonight, I kind of just, this is one of the first ones where I simply want to walk through the steps that she brought and just like, so good. I don't know, we'll pick apart the things we want to in it.
Let's go.
But I'm going to work my way backwards. So if you watched the TNG talk, if you watched the live stream, if you've listened to, if you didn't know, we also have TNG talk podcast, go listen to it, but we're going to be working it backwards from what she actually brought. But the last point she brought was prayer is a delight. And I think for me, like in my journey, that was probably like the most revelatory one of the 3 points she brought. So prayer is a delight, prayer is simple, prayer is important. Like, yes, I can agree to those other two, but delight was the thing that I had to learn. Yeah. And took me until like my 20s to go like, oh, this is prayer's fun. You know, and like, I don't know what it was like for you, because I know where you went and did your DTS. And I know how foundational prayer is for their community and everything they touch and do. Absolutely
everything. Like prayer is included in every aspect of our lives, the beginning of every meeting, beginning of everything. And it's not just like a short, quick little 5-minute or like 30-second prayer, right? But it's like, you're praying, you're really like seeking after the face of God and seeking after his presence in that place. And I think 100% it was something that I needed to learn to appreciate and to learn to kind of like, what does it look like for me to pray, not just with all my big words or what I think prayer should look like, but to actually pray because I'm talking with my Father, like the creator of the universe, you know, like the sovereign God that like died on a, like having to really like understand like what am I doing and not take it for granted and to be intentional with what I'm praying without trying to fill my time with words.
Yeah. And so I guess like I have a follow-up question for you though, in that of like, what in it would you say you're like, oh, that's the culture of prayer, like what we talked about tonight, that like, you know, every day, what was it, 8 to 10, I think last time you know, like to go from like, okay, we pray, yes, that's good. And we have prayer rhythms and we have prayer life and I pray and I love to pray and those kind of things. But to go from, I like praying and we do pray to like, no, we have a foundation and culture of prayer, 2 hours every single day. Like even for you growing up in missions, what was that shift like? Yeah. Going somewhere like that.
It's interesting, honestly, if I think about it, because the shift was this whole thing of like, well, part of it, like you do it because God asks, like commands us, asks us to do it. But then it's the extra step that you go, I do it because there's something of him that I encounter when I am praying. Yeah. And I don't think I took that, like, I didn't feel the difference or I didn't step into that difference until I was forced to pray. Forced, I mean, encouraged, or a space was created where we got to pray for 2 hours at the beginning of every day for a really long season. And because of that, like I had the shift of like, wow, like this is, and so then it's like your perspective just changes, and it just changed for me when I had to do it. And I had to like completely shift. I'm not doing this out of obedience, but I'm doing this because I get to encounter him and something of him that I don't get to encounter anywhere else. Yeah.
I think like I was talking about even before we got started, like what it was like for me when I went and did my DTS. Yeah. We both did, we did Fire and Fragrance DTSs.
Classic.
And what many people might not know about those is it was first a prayer room movement. Like they were praying almost like all day. At least for someone who like never prayed, that felt like all day. And so then like that it went from that place of the prayer room and turned into a DTS.
Yeah.
And so prayer was essential in that. And I remember getting ready to go do my DTS and sitting down with a friend who had spent years in Kona, had pioneered DTSs there, knew the leaders of Fire and Fragrance well. And so I was like, we're grabbing coffee. I just wanted to pick his brain. Like, what am I getting into? Like I really didn't know. Somebody told me they're like, this is the DTS you should do. And I said, okay, great. Like, I'm sure that's how it happens for most people.
Yes.
And we're sitting down for coffee and I just go, hey, like, what am I getting into? He's like, how much do you pray? First question, like no hesitation. And I was like, I don't know, like a good day is 30 minutes. Like we have youth group on Wednesdays and we have pre-service prayer at 6:15 to 6:45.
Yeah.
Like that is my thriving day in prayer. And I guarantee you, I didn't pray for the whole half hour. He's like, okay, get ready to pray for 4 hours a day. And I was already convinced that God wanted me to go because otherwise I think that alone would have made me back out.
You're like, hold up.
So I was like, you can't pray for 40 hours, like 4 hours a day. Like that doesn't, like, what do you do? 4 hours? Like, no. And then we get there and you're like, oh, it's only 2 hours. And even that I was like, okay, thank God. But I was still like, how do you pray for 2 hours? And at the end of my DTS, like a prayer set would end and you're like, does it have to end? Yeah. And I think that was like the weirdest change for me to truly like what AG was sharing on is find that delight in that place of prayer.
Yeah.
And some of that was because we're praying together. It's not just me. The thing is like, it's not me trying to pray alone for 4 hours, 2 hours, an hour. Like that can be tough. Right. But it was like, oh, we're doing this together. And then I was praying so much that I actually got to see prayers answered.
Oh, that's so true.
And I think like that's the other side of it, right? Is like, I don't know, I pray to pass a test. I don't pass the test. Does God move? Like, does he love me? Like, and then I pray for some crazy thing to happen somewhere else in the world. And 2 days later, the report comes back that happened.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is fun.
Yeah.
Like I can pray and God moves.
Mm-hmm. And I think for me, something also that was so interesting on my DTS was getting to pray for things that were on God's heart. Like I got to see my heart completely change for things that I didn't think that I cared about before, but because I was praying about things so much, all these different things, my heart posture started to change on like how I viewed certain aspects of like the world or my worldview in different areas. And I started to like my heart was breaking for the things that broke God's heart. And I was weeping for the things that God was grieving for. And I was excited for the things that I found that like, oh, I never cared about these like small things before. Like, you care, but you don't really care. And I realized that on like, as you're praying so much, like you really start to like things change internally because of that. Yeah.
Like the prayer room is where most of my friends got like their word of the Lord to move to where they're at now. It's where, so many of those things happened. Like I had friends that never thought about the nations they are living in. And then one prayer set and they're weeping at the end of it. And they're like, I have to go.
I mean, that's why I'm in England.
What happened
right
is
now.
like, I have to go. Like that all happened in the prayer room. Like it wasn't good convincing. I wasn't say, hey, Amanda, you should spend the next 50 years in England. And you're like, that's a good idea. Maybe I will. Like, it's like you prayed and you're like, I'm never leaving. And it was like, I think so many of my friends, like I said, got that call of God to do the things they're doing in the spheres or in the nations or wherever they're at was because of what you just said. It's like they got God's heart in that place of prayer. Yeah. And I think like in there as well is like, even to AG's second point was like that prayer is simple. I think that's my favorite point. Yeah. Honestly, that the prayer is so simple. And there's not like, we don't have to try hard. Like we don't need to, us praying isn't us like trying to earn God's love or to earn anything extra, but that it's so simply, God just wants to hear our heart. He wants to hear our thoughts and our minds and all these different things. And one of the things that was hard for me when in like this learning, in this prayer journey of having to like in the prayer room on DTS was like, there were some times that I showed up and I just didn't feel like it. Yeah. And then I think they like shared something and I was like, I think I was talking to the Lord. I'm like, God, I just don't feel like it. And he's like, it's okay. You just like, be honest, like be your full and most honest and vulnerable self before the Lord, because he doesn't want anybody else. Like he doesn't want anything else. He just wants you He wants you and what's on your heart and what's on your mind. And as the more you spend time with him, the more that what's on your heart and is on your mind will align with what's on his, but also he just wants you to draw near to him, And so like, it's simple. Prayer is so simple. Yeah. And I don't think like I couldn't go that long in prayer if I was trying to be fancy with what I was saying, or I was trying to have the most like eloquent words and, the craziest phrases and all those kinds of things. Like I just wouldn't make it that long. because I'm not that smart. Like I can't, you're like, use 10 fancy words and I'm like, okay, sick. Like, I don't know how much longer do we have, it just doesn't work. And even when the disciples asked him, like the Lord's Prayer is insanely simple. Like he doesn't use crazy language.
Yeah.
He's not taking them through deep theology. Like it's a few verses, they're asking him for one of the most complex things is like this idea, like we are going to talk to the Father. He's like, okay, yeah, here you go. Here's this simple prayer.
Yeah.
And I learned it. I didn't know it for so long. We had, I probably don't pray it enough. I don't know if I need to pray it more, but sometimes I don't feel like I pray it enough. But like I learned it from playing, like I played in a Catholic youth organization, like CYO basketball.
Yeah.
And like you played for like one of the Catholic churches and then you played all the other Catholic churches in your area, like in your age groups and stuff. And we started every game like by getting into the middle of the court and all doing like the Lord's Prayer. Wow. And like, that's where I learned it. But I remember like the first few games, like they like gathering, I was like, why are you holding hands? This is weird. And then they all start saying a prayer together. And I was like, what the heck is happening? Like, I'm so uncomfortable right now. But then like a few weeks in and you're actually like, oh, okay, I know it. And my mom's like, I go home, I'm like, Mom, what was that? She's like, it's in the Bible. You're like, okay, I should read that.
It's right there.
You know what it is? You're like, oh, like there it is. And I'll just read that a few times and now I got it and I'll go pray with them. Like, but that was, I was in 5th grade. I was like 10 years old and we're all saying the Lord's Prayer together. And you're like, that's just the most simple thing and the most simple way to start a game of basketball and the most simple way to learn how to pray. I'm a 10-year-old and I got that prayer down, it's not insane. And I think that like that idea of how simple can we keep it? Like, I don't want my kid to feel like she needs a postgraduate degree to pray.
Yeah.
I want my 6-year-old daughter to feel super comfortable praying for dinner.
Yeah.
Because I'm not being fancy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I even think like there's an aspect of, what was it? It's the simple thing and you don't want your daughter to feel like she can't pray right now. And it's like, it's so simple that we can incorporate it into our everyday, like mundane moments. Even one of the things that my friend once taught me to do, which I honestly, this whole thing, like it's so simple, like you're literally just talking to God, is like sometimes, I don't always do this, but it's just to reflect how simple it is. Like sometimes I just pray, I'm like, Lord, what outfit should I wear today? How should I spend my day in this specific area? Or I'm like thinking about a friend of mine that like, like the simple things, right? Just like I incorporate it into my life in like the small moments of like the mundane moments. Thinking about a friend and I'm like, I'll pray for this friend because she's going through this today. And I'll be like, and then you can message a friend, but like, it's simple. Like you're incorporating God into your everyday, into the mundane.
Yeah. And I think in the idea of it being like a culture is like our automatic response to situations is we pray.
Yeah.
And if you make it too complicated, you'll never do that.
Yeah.
Like if I need to go get to a quiet space, God says, lock your door, go to do this, get on my knees, go do this thing, put on this worship song. And you're like, okay, well, like I'm never going to get there. If I have to make it this ordeal to pray rather than like, I'm just going to go talk to my Father.
Yeah. Your friend.
And it's just that easy. Yeah. And I'm just going to do that. And great. I can pray all day. Paul says, I pray more than all of you. And you're like, he doesn't do that by being like, having these crazy prayers. He's, like I learned how to pray through the scriptures. Yeah. I learned how to pray, just by like picking a nation and Googling what's going on there right now. Okay. I'll go pray for India. Like this is what's happening.
Yeah.
Those simple things, like it doesn't have to be hours and hours of research. You go Indian government and you'll get some news article and you just start praying. Like it's that easy.
And even just like prayers of gratitude, like it says, like we enter into his courts with thanksgiving and praise. And so then like we even just being thankful for the things that are happening around you and listing them and like verbalizing them in prayer with the Lord. Like it truly, and I think this is an aspect of it being a culture, like it changes things. Yeah. Like it changes your life. It changes the lives of the people around you. Like it affects every aspect of like what we do with our lives,
Yeah. And like one night, my kids will come in, they'll have a bad dream, something like that. And like we have made it the culture in our house that like we'll sit down and we'll pray for our kid before we go them back to bed. And there's times where you're just like, it's 2 a.m. and I can't get my eyes open. And I just like notice my daughter's like still there. And I was like, I don't know how long this has been. She's like, Dad, are we going to pray? And you're like, yeah, let's pray. But you're like, that's the culture of like, my kid knows she's okay, has, come to us in the middle of the night, but is like, but I can't go back to bed yet because I haven't prayed.
Mm.
You know, and you're like, okay, that's what I want to set. And that's how easy I want to make it for my kids and how easy I want to make it for the people we're discipling and stuff like that, where you don't have to come in and do something crazy. But also I had a bad dream and this thing happened. Like, yeah, pray. That's what
you
we're
want it to
do.
be the automatic response for things.
Yeah. And the more complicated we make it, the less automatic it can be.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that leads to her first point, our last point.
Yeah.
But her talking about how important prayer is. Like, prayer is important. And I remember, you know, let's go back to the prayer room in my DTS, or it was one of the years I was staffing. And there was a controversy happening at a border crossing between the two countries. And we had teams in both, and they're kind of giving both sides of, like, you know, the story. But basically one nation was blocking like food convoys and other things from going to the other side and deliveries and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, okay, but if you don't let these through, then we don't get food, you know? And I remember, like, in the prayer room, we're hearing this, our friends are like texting us live what's going on.
Yeah.
And we're praying. And I remember the next day showing up to class and they're like, guys, the blockade is gone. The things are going through, food's getting to and you're just like, you know, like, yeah, like I genuinely believe we poured into that.
Wow.
Like, you know, in that like 2-hour prayer set.
Yeah.
I believe we prayed and God moved, because tensions were high and it was not something that should have been solved overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was not that easy, you know, and in some parts of the world, like the animosity that's there between nations is stuff that you can't do without prayer.
Yeah.
Like, that's how important it is, because there's solutions that are never going to happen if we don't bring it to God.
Yeah. And surrender it to him.
Yeah.
And even like, it's like the whole thing of how like prayer is us standing in the gap for specific things and so then like there are things of the world that we don't have control over, and we may at this time not be able to physically or practically solve. But the best part, and I think like the privilege of our reality, is that we get to pray to our God who makes the impossible possible, like who does all of these different things, and we get to intercede and we get to pray and to stand in the gap for these situations and have hope for these situations because of him. And so it's honestly, in some ways, it's like a privilege. Like, we get to do this, and it's important that we do this and we pray and we really seek after what God wants us to pray for, and not only to use our words, but to take time to make space for God to show us what he even wants us to pray for. Yeah.
And I remember going through it when I was like a teenager, and I didn't get prayer, you know?
Yeah.
And you're just thinking, like, if God knows I need that, why do I need to pray? Like, even like that, but even being that simple of like, God knows I need this provision. Wouldn't he just do it? And you just don't realize like how much you're missing in the relationship with God,
massive.
How much you're missing in your own spiritual depth, how much is like just isn't there if you're not praying, you know? And you're like, oh, I started praying and then I started seeing breakthrough. Like, oh, that's crazy. Why wasn't I seeing breakthrough before? You know? And you're like, oh yeah, prayer. Like, it is just that important, like that connection between like with God. And we're showing up to, you know, that's the prayers. The first time we had this small group that would meet every week, and it's the first time I heard God's voice was in prayer.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just walking down the street where all of a sudden the booming voice of God came. Like, it was in prayer, and it was in this time going, hey God, I want a word of encouragement for this person. And then you sit there and then all of a sudden you're like, I got this weird picture. I don't know. Sure. This is the thing that came to my mind. And then they start crying. And you're like,
it's the best
I think I heard
ever.
God. Like, that's insane. Like, but I prayed. And that's why I got it.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's how important it is. Like, if you don't do it, you don't get the other end of it.
Yeah. And even something that AJ was sharing, just like as she was reflecting on the life of Jesus, like he made time for prayer.
Yeah.
Like, it was a priority in his life to take time aside to spend time with the Father, to spend time in prayer with the Father. And so like, if Jesus made time for it and we saw I guess you could say, like, we saw the effects of it through his life, like, we should be making it space for that and making that a priority in our lives as well.
And he's inconveniently doing it.
Oh, yes.
Right? He's not doing it. He's like, hey guys, like, right after lunch, we're going to do this, or before breakfast, let's have an hour of prayer. Like, it's like he did stuff with the crowds all day, dealt with his disciples all day with the dumb questions they were asking about what just happened with all the crowds. And he's like, okay, I'm going to go pray. And then that's when he's up on the mountain praying, and then he sees the disciples like in the storm, and he's in this place praying, and the disciples come get him. He's like, we need to go. And it's always inconveniencing him to some extent, and I did the math. I kind of want an hour in the morning before my kids get up. And my son he was an early riser. Like there was some days it was like a 4:30 start, and you're like, okay, that's not okay. And thank God that was like, the rare occasion, but like 5:30 was like the norm for him. And I was just going like, okay, like if I want time to pray in the morning, if I want this time alone, because I'm tired by 9 o'clock, like I'm going to bed. I'm not staying up late to pray, then you're like, I have to get up at 4. I was like, I'm not getting up at 4. I'm not spending 5 hours of my day before work starts, but just going like, yeah, it's important and it's inconvenient. And that's the point doesn't need to be easy.
And it sustains you for like the trials or the things or like life that is going to be coming. Like I truly think like the prayer and the inconvenient prayer that like Jesus did and set time aside for, like it prepared him for what was coming. And I think like we can 100% learn from that with our lives. Like our prayer life will sustain us for the things that will be coming in and through our lives. Like what God wants to do in our lives, through our lives, and for how we will like not survive, but like thrive in the midst of all of these like things that life throws at us, and like with work and various different things.
And when your kid's waking you up at 5:30, you're irritable. Yeah. Like, you're just like, I don't want to do it. I love you. I don't want to see you right now. I wish you were back in bed. Like, I guess we're doing this. Like, that's part of like reality. But like, if I had spent time with God, and the times I do get to spend with God before my kids come in super early or whatever it is, you're just like, hey guys, how's it going?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even my response to them showing up is so different. And then of course, like if you get up that early, like you're irritable throughout the day because you're just tired, but you're like, oh, but I spent time with God. And you're just like, I can tell the differences between the days. I can look back and go, yeah, that was a day I did not pray in the morning or get any time with God before things got going. And then I was irritable all day. And then my time with God at night is mostly repenting for how I was irritable, instead of like, I got time with God in the morning, and like that time in the presence has set me up for the things throughout the day. And you're like, I got, like, even this morning, I don't know, we got a newborn, and I woke up at 4:30 and I just couldn't fall back asleep. Like it's 9:30 now. If you don't know this, we shoot these like right after we do the Thursday nights. We thought it was a good idea and we haven't changed it yet, but you're like, I got up at 4:30, it's 9:30. Like I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
But in my day, I've had time with God, and I've taken those moments to pray, and I've done those things. And you're just like, oh, this conversation, staying up late, doing this podcast, it's so much easier.
Yeah.
Because I did that simple thing of starting my day with that place for the foundation for everything that was going to happen. Instead of, like I said, spending most of my evening repenting for just being like frustrated with everything because I was tired or whatever.
Yeah. Prayer is important. It changes things in your life and in the lives of the people around you.
So I want to close with like, what's something from this message that you want to apply? I don't know. You wake up tomorrow morning, you're like, I'm going to set my alarm half an hour earlier, or I'm going to, throughout the day, I'm going to try to take those moments to pray, or what was the thing that you're kind of thinking from AG's message? You're like, how do I make this more of a culture in my life?
That's a good question.
I'll put you on the spot so I can answer first.
Yeah, you answer first, then I can. Okay. We'll process first. I don't want to take our time.
No, I think it is like when she just talked about the life of Jesus, and I have structured prayer, which is good. Like I want to make sure that it happens, but it's those times of like silence that you're like, oh, okay, I'll go do this thing, or I'll go sometimes it is just nice to lay on the couch or go do that thing, but you're like, what if I was just praying as I walk from our house to the offices, or from the cafe back to my office, or as I'm just doing things around, like, feeling those mundane moments. What if I just start more regularly, every once in a while, pray in tongues or do something like that? But what if my culture and my habit began to be like, I normally fill this time, like there isn't silence because it's in prayer, kind of thing. And I was like, man, I don't know, try it for a week, try it for a month, see what sticks, kind of thing. But you're just going like, oh, I have so many more moments in a day that I could be praying, and I'm just not. So what happens if I just start to try to fill all those voids with prayer?
I think for me, one of the things that really stood out with what AG was sharing, and something that even like a heart, I think, piece for me is I am really fascinated by these different great moves of God and the Spirit within the world and various places. And if you were to look at it, consistently it comes down to prayer every single time. And then she was talking about Jesus and how he consistently prayed, and it was a rhythm, like he was unwilling to like budge on that. And so there are various things that I know God is wanting to do in our nation. I know what God, within our nation, being like right now the UK, and different things that he's putting on my heart. And I think that but it all comes down to like, we need to first draw near to God and make space for him to speak and to hear his heart over the dreams or the visions or the things that we're believing for. But none of those things, I mean, like, one is like, none of those things can happen, or it's either we try to do it without God, which is kind of horrible and worse, or it just won't happen. And so then like we need to consistently be putting it into our regular rhythms. And so then I think one of the things that even I'm wanting to implement more and to be specific and intentional about is maybe scheduling a time in my week to intentionally like ask God, what do you want me to pray for in this,
that's good, within
these months, for this season.
Yeah. And I think even when you're talking about, she didn't get to it in her message. She did a little bit. She covered it in the prayer's important thing. We didn't touch it at all, but like how prayer has started and fueled revivals. And you're just like, okay, there's that. So if you want extracurricular homework to go do after you've listened to this, go pick up some books, go listen to some messages on revivals. Start with the Layman's Prayer Revival in New York. Insane move of God. The Ulster Revival, both of those birthed in the place of prayer. You could go down the list, like the Hebrides, she touched on that. Place of prayer, Charles Finney, prayer fueled the revivals he was a part of. Like, we could just go down the list of going, all these things we're talking about through the mundane, through these moments. God, what are you saying? What are you doing? What do you want me to pray for? Like all of these things. But like revivals never happened without prayer.
There's no excuse.
That's a message for another day.
You're like, you whether you're a missionary or not a missionary, like there's no excuse. Like this is for everyone. If you love Jesus, this is for you, kind of thing.
It's true. I'll close this with you. So if you're looking for something to do, if you're like, I don't know what it is, this is the thing that like, it got me into missions and it's stuck with me since. Same guy that told me I was going to pray for 4 hours a day when I got to my DTS. We had to listen to a message out of Matthew 9 where Jesus says, pray that the Lord of the harvest would send forth laborers into the harvest field. It's Jesus's only an SBS guy or a Bible guy can rebuke me on this in the comments or something, but it's his only repeated and only lasting prayer request. Like Jesus asked God for a lot of things, but when he gave us something to pray for, it was pray that the Lord of the harvest would send forth laborers into the harvest field. You want to start your life with prayer. You got the Lord's Prayer and you got Jesus's prayer request. Send forth laborers. So thank you guys for tuning in. This is so fun. Thanks, Amanda, for joining us again. It's good to have you on the team and on the podcast. It's a ton of fun. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.